Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Y'all are here for day 13 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Once again, you're here live at 5 for your afternoon driving lesson here with Steve. Hi, everybody. Wearing my Werewolf Ramen shirt again. I love this thing. I typed in werewolf on Amazon and t-shirt, and this came up, and I was like, yes, this sings to my soul. All right, folks. So, gonna be a great day because we're gonna be talking about city, country, and expressway driving, as well as sharing the roadway. We're gonna have some great videos today. See a little bit of stuff on safety features regarding vehicles, as well as how to safely share the roadway with motorcycles and large trucks. And both of these are super important because as a person that's had motorcycle, moped, and lost both of them due to other people being less than awesome, it matters to me because it was nearly my life that was lost twice because people don't know etiquette when dealing with motorcycles. And then for the 18-wheelers, well, it matters to you because you will share the roadway with 18-wheelers every pretty much time you drive, right? If you have to use the expressway, you're going to be within 100 feet of one, unless it's like some weird hour, folks. All right, so it does help to know what's safe to do, what's not safe to do, how we can approach things, because once again, our number one concern is your safety, everybody. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. City, country, and expressway driving, the Hernandez Driveway. Now, we will have 2 PowerPoints today, so in the middle, I'll just skip straight to the answer section on the chapter review. We'll go over those and then jump on into the next one, the one with the fun videos, right? All right, so adjusting to urban traffic, right? There's 2 main problems with driving in the city, all right? And it's really obvious what they are. It's the number of hazards and how close everything is together, all right? Straight up, you got 30 people wanting to change lanes. Nobody wants to let anybody go ahead of them. Everyone's thinking they've got to be the first one to get it done or it'll never happen. And because of that, we have problems. And it happens a lot, especially when we've got traffic like this. Now, if you're ever in traffic like this is what they're talking about when they say gridlock traffic. Bumper to bumper traffic. Because for real, this happens every day. Anytime there is not enough roadways to allow all the people needing to use them, we get this kind of traffic congestion. And it happens the worst in the bigger cities where urban population gets super high thanks to skyscrapers. All right, New York, nuts, stuff like that. All right, now, how do we drive safely in urban situations, and what is traffic density? Well, traffic density is the number of vehicles you're going to meet per mile, and it will be no higher than when you are in the city. Because when you're on the expressway, generally speaking, you're not running past a bunch of cars. You're traveling with a group, and you've got, occasional groups that cross your path. But in city, everywhere you go is just car. It's terrible. All right, now how do we drive safely in urban situations? Well, we use IPD. We're constantly scanning to identify, predict, and decide. When something happens, we execute. All right, we use that Smith system. Aim high in steering, take in as much of the road. If you see that in your lane, 2 or 3 blocks down the road, the traffic is barely moving and then everyone's changing lanes, it's probably a good idea to get out of that lane now. All right, aim high in steering, okay? Get the big picture. You constantly scan your mirrors. Leave yourself an out, okay? Be in the best lane for what you're going to be doing, all right? It's very simple, folks. It is very simple to pay attention to what's around you, but it's very hard to make lane changes and things like that if we're not communicating properly. So always remember to communicate. And then most importantly, the zone control system. Know where you have availability, know where you're going to be able to go in the event of an emergency, and leaving yourself an out, you got to use that zone control. Okay. Now, managing time and space around your vehicle is critical inside the city, because when you don't, collision. All right. Now, the book says you should have 3 seconds between you and a driver driving between 30 and 40 miles an hour, or 30 highway speeds. But how many seconds should you have between your car and the car in front of you? Well, 4 seconds or more for inexperienced drivers. Okay, this allows you to have plenty of time to react, no matter what the situation ahead is like. That extra second of gap is a second longer that you can think and respond. All right. Now, what types of areas would you expect cars to stop suddenly in? Well, we've got a bunch of those. Intersections, obviously. Maybe they got a stop sign. Maybe there's a cross traffic and they're stopping because they have to. Otherwise, they're going to have a collision. Because remember, we have to protect people from their poor decisions. If we see they're about to run a red light that we currently have green, we have to stop to avoid hitting them, because that's the law. All right, so intersections, high pedestrian traffic areas, anywhere where the person might just step out in front of your car to cross the street. Once again, the meat bags, we give them a break. The flesh is spongy and weak and is not going to be able to withstand getting hit by a car. So we yield the right of way to all traffic, or pedestrian traffic, even if they're being ridiculous with what they're doing. Okay? Lanes next to parked vehicles, because parked vehicles do not always wait for it to be safe, and they just go. They just jump out. They meet their legal obligation, and then sometimes not even, and they just jump out into traffic because they feel that they deserve the gap. All right, because people are going to do it. All right, business driveways with high volume traffic, H-E-B, Stripes, Walmart, Target. These are businesses that get a lot of traffic. Okay, but it could be a McDonald's, a Wendy's, a Burger King, Chick-fil-A, unless it's Sunday, right? But business driveways, anywhere where lots of cars are going in and out, people may have to stop suddenly because, once again, cars will jump out in front of you for no reason. With no assurance that they're going to stay safe, they will just jump out in front of you in traffic. So you need to be prepared to stop in those situations. Because what is the most dangerous part of the roadway? Intersections. Anywhere two paths cross, the opportunity for someone to make the decision, well, I'm in a hurry, or, well, I know the sign says stop, but they don't know my circumstance. I'm just going to go. Can happen at a moment's notice. All right? Why? Because that's where all paths cross, and that's the most dangerous place on the roadway, because you have to rely that everyone else is doing what they need to be doing. You need to rely that everyone else is following the rules just like you are. Like, we don't turn from the shoulder of the road unless it's a turning lane. Today, as I was making my turn on Alamo Road to head towards the expressway to come to work, Only a school bus followed this rule, and I'm fairly certain it's simply because they couldn't have made the turn had they gotten into the shoulder. Right? It was just a whole bunch of people not knowing how it works, and so I had to wait and wait and wait, and I was the last one in priority, even though I had the right of way, because we got to. We can't let someone's poor decision become a collision simply because we didn't want to wait, because then you're going to wind up waiting anyway. All right? Now, why are tailgaters so hazardous? Well, if you have to stop quickly, they can hit you from the rear. Okay, so how do we manage them? Well, if someone's driving too close to you, the easiest thing to do is increase your following distance by, not to, by at least 4 seconds. Why? Because in the event of an emergency, you are not going to be able to press on those brakes like to get you stopping because you've got a tailgater. You now have to start slowing down more carefully. So you want to basically add the space they should have in front of them to the distance between you and the vehicle you've got ahead of you, because you're going to have to take your time slowing down because Checkles right there behind you thought it would be okay to be 30 feet behind your car and eliminate their ability to respond to your emergency braking. Right? So you just add the distance they should have so that you can take that much longer slowing down and stopping. Right? That's the best way to deal with a tailgater. Also because as you're doing this, we're slowing down. We're taking our foot off the accelerator and we're allowing that gap to open up. And tailgaters very often are tailgating you because their tiny brain tells them that being 100 feet closer to you than they should be means they're going to get to their destination 5 minutes sooner. And it in fact means 1 second sooner. That's it. You travel 100 feet in 1 second going 70 miles an hour. So you are just 1 second further back, leaving 100 feet between you and the car. 2 seconds further back is just going to cost you those 2 seconds. Oh no. If your life can't afford to give up 2 seconds, folks, you need to stop dancing so dangerously with the clock and leave earlier. It's that simple. All right. Now, managing space in urban traffic. Look ahead while staying back. With larger vehicles in your front zone, staying back further is going to allow you to see past the vehicle and not have to rely 100% on them. Okay? And when individuals tailgate large vehicles, they also wind up doing things like running a red light after the large vehicle did so. Right? And this can get you a ticket because you were the last one to do it. Okay? As you're approaching traffic signals, if the light is red, why are you accelerating? Does not matter how quickly you get to the signal. What matters is that that light is going to change when it changes. So if the light is red, take your foot off the accelerator, slow down, let other traffic pull ahead of you because it doesn't matter. Because they're going to stop, and because you took your time getting there, you may not have to stop. You may get to continue moving on without ever actually having to stop. Or at the very least, you're conserving fuel by allowing your vehicle to essentially idle and you roll on momentum. Okay? Now, covering the brake, anytime you're approaching an intersection and you're not sure if the light's going to stay green, or you're approaching a yield sign or a flashing yellow light, you want to be covering the brake. This is going to cut your reaction time in half and help you avoid a collision. Now, at low speeds, it makes a difference of like 10, 12 feet, not dramatic. At high speeds, we're talking 40, 50 feet, and when someone asks me how important is 40 to 50 feet at high speed, I'm like, okay, well, how many 5-year-olds can you line up in 50 feet, hand to shoulder? That's probably going to be right around 20, 25. So yeah, 50 feet makes a big difference to those people that are within 50 feet of you when your car comes to a stop. Okay? Another 50 feet would have meant their life, would have meant their collision, right? So cover the brake. It helps reduce that time and can be a lifesaver, all right? Adjusting speed, remember the speed limit is just that, the limit. It doesn't mean you have to be going that fast, all right? If the traffic in your lane is traveling at 63 and the limit is 70, but you have no intention of going 75 or 80, stay in that lane, go to 63. Oh my goodness, you're losing a whole minute because you're not driving at that maximum speed limit if it's a half an hour drive. You lose 1 whole minute. Oh no, that's not the end of the world, folks. A minute ain't nothing. Right? A minute of your time. You give a minute of your time to those people that come to your door on Saturday morning so that you can politely tell them to leave. Hey, I'm sorry, we're not interested. Instead of just like slamming the door in their face and taking 1 second, right? You'll take a minute to like make sure that you got everything with you before you leave the house. you'll take a minute and just watch two squirrels play fighting in the grass because it's two squirrels play fighting. You know, you'll take a minute to watch a cat stalking a dog. So take a minute to get there safe. Take a minute to ensure that you make it there without a crash, all right? Because if you can take 2 minutes for a TikTok video, you can take 2 minutes to get there safe, right? Right? Right. Okay, and if you can argue with that, like good, solid logic, I'd love to hear it. But there is no argument that says, you know, putting your life on the line is ever worth it. Right now, selecting the best lane. If you know you're going to be going to the right, be in the right lane. If you know you're going to be going into the left, be in the left lane. Well ahead of time. Don't wait for that last little bit. Don't wait for that minimum legal distance. Be in the appropriate lane well ahead of time. Why? Because then you don't have to worry that people blocked you for the last 5 or 6 blocks. You don't have to worry that individuals, due to other traffic problems, prevented you from being able to move all the way over and you missed your turn because you got in there as soon as possible. All right? Be in the best lane. Okay. And then characteristics of rural traffic. Roadways. The materials vary greatly and maintenance doesn't always occur. Now, let me explain to you what maintenance doesn't always occur means. So I'm driving to my dad's former home to go visit him, and I see in the roadway a pothole that basically is an intersection. Like 2 roads meet there, and this pothole is the size of pretty much the whole intersection. So I slow down to 10, I go over it, and I go through, and I go. And I asked my dad about it, and he's like, oh yeah, we call that our little speed trap. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, if anyone comes trying to drive through here at faster than 10, 15 miles an hour, they hit that and their day goes real bad. And I was like, and y'all are okay with this? Oh, there's nothing we can do. Short of them going and filling it in themselves, the city was not going to take care of it. And that was here in Texas. Hey, that happens. Stuff like that is normal. That, like I've mentioned before, or I should have mentioned before, you will encounter situations where people say things like, well, anybody could have told you not to go down that road, because local knowledge matters when you're driving through local areas. And there are things that are common knowledge to the locals, but not to somebody using Google Maps. Okay? And sometimes those little used roads are the fastest way through. Problem is that Google Maps doesn't keep track of whether or not it rained 2 inches and now that road is pure mud that you will lose traction on at some point, right? Google Maps does not go, hey, a tree fell down in that last big storm on Thursday and the city hasn't gone out there to fix it yet because nobody uses that road anyway. You know, things like that happen, and that's the norm, folks. All right, so materials vary greatly. Dirt roads, if it's been raining, slippery. Gravel roads, slippery all the time. Caliche roads, if it's been dry for too long, slippery. Go figure, right? And then just there's all kinds of stuff in between. Cement roads sound like they'd be a great idea. They're not. They're usually riddled with potholes, right? Sugar Road in Edinburgh used to be paved with cement back when that was the most efficient thing they could do, and it caused a bunch of problems, right? And then speed. Most country highways have a speed limit of 55 miles an hour. However, depending on the road, you may need to travel much slower. 55 on a regular dirt road during great weather is not a problem. I have done it many times. I used to live off of a dirt road. Okay? On a little ranch area. We were so excited when they paved out in front of our place. Like for real. Like we celebrated it because it was awesome. No more dirt roads. But, you know, a little bad weather and you may not be able to safely drive over 30 miles an hour on that road, even though the speed limit's 55 and you can easily drive that when weather's been great. Just a little too much moisture and dirt roads can become a nightmare. The sort of things that you could slip and slide off of just going 20, all right? So don't think that, you know, just because that's the speed limit, you're gonna be able to go it, especially if weather sucks, all right? And then passing and being passed. Before you do it, decide if it's worth it. Do I need to pass this person? Is there a real reason behind it? Is it legal? Is it safe? Well, legal is simple. Is there a sign that says no passing zone? Is there a solid yellow line or even a solid white line on your side of the roadway? If there is, it is a no passing situation. It is not legal. Is it safe? Do you have line of sight restrictions? Is the road curving to the right? If it is, it's not safe. Are you approaching a hill? Not safe. Are you coming into an underpass? Not safe. Okay. Are you approaching an intersection? Not safe. Okay. But if everything is safe and awesome and you have a valid reason to pass this person, then after you verify it's clear, you should be able to go 10 miles an hour faster than the car when passing it without exceeding the speed limit. So if they're going 55 and a 60, you can't pass them because you need to be able to go 10 miles an hour faster than them. And that's because when you're going 10 miles an hour faster than them, you're traveling 15 feet per second faster than them, and that's how much distance you're getting ahead of them every moment. Problem is that you could need as much as to travel 300 feet before you're in a safe situation or further, right? Because of a safe following distance. So it does turn out that we need excessive amounts of time, right? So you need to be able to go at least 10 miles an hour faster than the car while you're passing it. All right, this doesn't mean you can drive faster than the speed limit. This means they need to be going that much under the speed limit or more, right? You should be able to see both headlights of the car pass clearly in your rear view mirror before returning to your original lane. Okay, if you are being passed, instead of like not letting them, speeding up to kind of block them or anything, slow down dramatically, let that car get ahead of you, because if they have an accident right here, the last thing they're going to do is try to jerk back into their lane to avoid the accident. And if you're right next to them, they could hit you, they could wind up going in front of you while they're hitting the brakes, they could collide and then slide into the lane in front of you. All kinds of things can happen, folks. So if you are being passed, slow down and let the driver pass you. Just like when you're being passed by an emergency vehicle, if you slow down by 20 miles an hour for just a few moments, that will let them get past you 20 miles an hour. That's going to be 30 feet every single second. Just 10 seconds, they've gone 300 feet. Okay, that's going to make it much safer for them to get past you and back into the lane without risking a collision. All right, but if you don't slow down, well, then it could take them 30 to 40 seconds to finish passing you. And that's a much longer time to be worried that they may get into an accident and drag you into it. All right, but when you need to pass, this is how we do so. Move from your following distance to your ready position, which is 2 seconds behind the vehicle you intend to pass. Now at speeds of like 30 miles an hour, you're 90 feet back. That's awesome because going 10 miles an hour faster than them means in 6 seconds you'll get even with them. 6 seconds later, you'll have finished passing them, 12 seconds total, right? Awesome stuff, all right? But when we're talking about faster speeds, we're talking about like say 70. Let's say you're on one of those country roads that does let you go up to 70 miles an hour because it's just, nothing but a road. Okay, well now 2 seconds behind them is 200 feet. And 200 feet behind them is going to take you, 13 seconds just to get caught up to them with that 10 miles an hour difference. And then another 13 seconds to put those same 200 feet ahead of you. So you're talking close to half a minute. And that's under ideal conditions and assuming they don't try to slow you down or prevent you from passing them. So please always make sure that you have plenty of free room and space ahead of you before you try this. Now, move from your following distance to that 2 seconds behind to pass. Signal to the left, prepare for your lane change, and check your over-the-shoulder blind spot, because if there's someone already attempting to pass you because you're traveling slower than them, you don't want to accidentally pull into them and have a collision right there. Okay? And then if they are passing you, you're going to need to wait for them to finish their passing maneuver before you can even consider doing a passing maneuver. All right. Now, change lanes smoothly and accelerate to at least 10 miles an hour faster than the vehicle you are passing. You'll know this because you see yourself catching up to the vehicle. All right. And it's also consequentially 10 miles an hour faster than the speed that you were going when you were following them, as long as they don't increase their speed. All right. Now, maintain your speed until you can see at least one of the headlights of the vehicle you are passing in your rear view mirror. Okay. Signal for a right lane change and return smoothly to the right lane. Do not slow down. Once you are fully and completely within your new lane, not just part way, but all the way and going straight again, then you turn off your turn signal, right? That's when you stop indicating the lane change, not until you have control of the vehicle. Now, all four of these are no passing situations, and like I mentioned a few moments ago, all right, you are approaching an underpass. That is a no passing situation, all right? An uneven grade for an underpass. This is to prevent there being an intersection and risk of collision. Well, if you try to pass there, there's nowhere to go underneath there in case, someone is using it and they want to avoid hitting you. So that's a no passing situation. Anytime you are close to an intersection is a no passing situation. Anytime the road curves to the right because of line of sight restrictions, that yellow car can currently only see the silver car in that image. That is what they can see. They cannot yet see that car coming from the opposite direction because the car next to them is blocking their line of sight, but they're about to see it. All right? And then that last image, if you can't figure out what it is, they're actually approaching the crest of a hill. Never attempt to pass someone while you're going uphill. Always wait till you get to the top of the hill. That way you can see the oncoming traffic before attempting a passing maneuver. And a little pro tip, if you are passing someone while going downhill, be very careful with your speed because I was once doing this and I got pulled over for doing 90 on the 75 and I was like, officer, I swear to goodness, I was just, or 90 on the 70 and I was like, officer, I swear to goodness, I was just trying to pass, but that downhill and my car accelerated real fast. And he's like, yeah, I saw you slow down, so I'm only going to give you a warning because I also see you don't have any tickets for this. So you're not a chronic speeder, but you need to be careful. And remember, downhill, you're going to go faster. And I was like, yeah. And so now I make sure that I wait until I'm done with the downhill before attempting to pass someone because, yeah, you speed up a lot when you're trying to get past someone and you don't even notice how fast you're moving. But you fly past them. All right, now rural situations you might encounter. Slow-moving vehicles, all right? They're not traveling faster than 25 miles an hour, so if you are, slow down, okay? Now, signs are reflected so you can see them at night, and that's not a triangle, it's actually a hexagon. It's got 6 sides, it just has bars on the outside and a slightly different shade of orange triangle on the inside, all right? These things are easy to spot and are required on all vehicles that cannot go faster than 30, okay? Now, folks, you have 2 situations when you get behind one of these. You can, A, be behind them and patient and continue to drive understanding that this vehicle cannot go any faster. Right? And then, when they are able to, they will gladly move out of your way because you were kind, you were courteous, you were not there behind them honking. Now, conversely, on the other hand, if you get behind these vehicles and beep, 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 like they don't know you're there, then they can take all the time in the world before finding a situation where they can finally get out of your way, or not even ever try. All right. I've never had one of these, whether it be a thresher or even a horse and buggy, try to big league me and prevent me from passing them. Except for that one time that I was rude and I was honking at the person, and they were just like, no, I'm gonna just stay in this lane. Every other time in my experience, I have not honked. I just slow down to a safe speed, and then they'll move the vehicle as far off the roadway as they can, and they'll wave me through. Because they need to make sure that they're going to be safe when they do that sort of maneuver. They can't do it just anywhere. They've got to have the right situation, the right kind of roadway, the right strip of roadway. Okay, so just be patient, be calm. They'll get out of your way as soon as it's safe for them to do so. Right? Or you can be a big old jerk and hit the horn as soon as you get behind them and pretend like they're the dumbest person alive and they don't understand that there's a loud, noisy vehicle right behind them. And they will play the dumb person and just be like, oh, I didn't realize you were back there. That's why I never got out of your way. Tee-hee. And it's their legal right to do so because they don't legally have to get out of your way. Okay? They get to drive slow. That's why they got that emblem, because they have to drive slow. They have no other choice. Right? And then animals. Now right there, it has the wonderful statement of often do not give warning, like the deer's going to hit you up on Instagram. I know you're planning on taking that trip up to North Texas and all this week, but I'm going to jump in front of your car as you're going through Kerrville, so please try not to hit me. That's not what we mean by they don't give warning. What we're referring to in those situations is that thing came out of nowhere situations where you're just kind of driving and all of a sudden shooting out of the tree line is a suicidal deer. And it happens. Animals fleeing from predators or they get spooked by noises will just run. Okay, when we discuss the fight or flight response, animals that are in flight mode are not thinking clearly, they are focused on escaping, and they cannot utilize IPDE. Otherwise, they do very quickly. They identify potential risks and hazards, they predict how they could hurt them, and they decide, I'm gonna run away from this sucker before he kills me. And that's why animals are very skittish, because they're constantly doing that sort of behavior. Okay? But that's what they mean by does not give you warning. It just comes out of nowhere. You had no way of telling that that animal was going to pop out, and so sometimes we crash. All right, my aunt had a out of nowhere cow just run out in front of her vehicle, right, and totaled the vehicle because that cow came out of nowhere and she was doing 45 on the 45. That was a lot of stopping power and not a lot of distance, right? So whenever you see those signs that says like deer crossing, that's not an indicator to the animals of where to cross. That is an indicator to the humans that this is where the animals regularly cross, right? So don't be like, oh my God, this deer crossing's in the worst place ever. They should move it down the road where it's not so busy. No, that's where the stuff happens. Okay, that's where the animals cross. That's why the sign is there. Right, and I'm sorry if I keep defaulting to my Karen voice, but you know, it's how it goes. I just see people entitled when they don't understand that animals have a right to exist. But anyway, yeah, because some animals are just going to total your car and walk away from the accident. That's why we have that lovely little picture of the moose in the lower right-hand corner. And yes, that moose does have teeny tiny horns. That's a little guy. That's a young'un that's an older one, but that is a young one because there's no major dewlap going on. And that thing is significantly taller than the vehicle because even young moose are like 8 foot tall. Those things are monsters. And don't honk at the moose. Moose come at me, bro sounds an awful lot like a car horn. So if you honk your car horn at a moose, it may take that as come at me, bro, or it may take that as Barry White songs. Either way, not something you want a moose to decide to do to your vehicle. And then rural signs you may encounter. All right, falling cows. I thought that sign was effing hilarious for about 2 seconds, and then I drove around a bend in the roadway, and there was what I could only describe as what you get when a cow falls a tremendous height. There was a big splatter, a little bit of viscera and organs all over the place, nice big splatter of blood, and there was most of a cow in what I could describe as what Newtonian physics does to a cow dropping at terminal velocity. If you've ever seen the movie Tremors, where they make it like the first one, where they make it like run out of the side of that cliff, it looked kind of like that on a smaller scale with a black and white center because it was a jersey. So yeah, though the signs may look amusing or may look like they're jokes, they're dead serious. All right, caution falling cows, 1,200 pounds of cow could land on top of your car in that area. Be careful. Pastures, they end with cliffs as well as nice little fences on level ground. So, you know, it happens. The second one, that car driving off the roadway. California and other parts of the country have some of the most beautiful and scenic roadways that travel along the coastline, so you can stare at this glorious ocean as your driver is driving this very dangerous road. Because it's beautiful. It's photographically just stunning. So people love taking these roads. But people also do this at night. People do this when they need to get somewhere without regards for the beauty of the road. And the existing road is, well, they're convenient because not everyone takes them. So they need these signs to make sure that people understand, hey, careful here. You could drive off the frickin' road and into the ocean. That next one, the moose is in perfect condition and that car is totaled. Because yes, a bull moose will just destroy your hoopty and walk away going, that punk didn't even get me. Because moose are just jerks like that. Except for the yard moose. The yard moose is okay. Now, correctional facility area, do not pick up hitchhikers. Once again, Hilarious. But we have one of these zones down here. This sign actually exists, I don't know, 40 minutes from here, because we have a correctional facility, and this sign is on the back roads near it. Why? Because if you pick up a hitchhiker there, because there's that correctional facility, there's a high likelihood that the hitchhiker is, well, it's not a high likelihood because they don't escape often, but correctional facility areas generally don't have houses and stuff out there for there to be someone normally hitchhiking. Okay, it's just the prison, because who wants to live near a prison, right? If your house is 2 blocks away from the prison and nothing else within 30 blocks, people are going to come towards your place fairly quickly. I mean, it's just common sense. All right, so don't pick up hitchhikers in that situation, because, I mean, you know, the last person that escaped from jail in Texas, I think, murdered a family of 5 in their summer home because he didn't want to go to jail. So these are desperate people. Don't pick up hitchhikers because it's illegal. Don't do it in a correctional facility area because, well, it's the odds of it being, you know, a failed pickup is a lot higher, folks. All right. But these that use images are images that are basically used anywhere in the world. Anywhere where you have falling cows, you'll have a similar sign. Anywhere where you could drive off the roadway, you'll have a similar sign. Anywhere where there's moose, which means Canada, you'll see the same sign in use, or a very similar one, because international signs utilize symbols. And that upside down standing cow is just absolutely hilarious, because that's how I picture a cow falling off a cliff, like, what's going on? Still trying to stand like everything's cool. And then the advantages of expressways. All right, so expressways eliminate cross traffic because everyone has their own side of the roadway, because there's a median or barrier between opposing lanes of traffic. So reduce risk of wrong way drivers. Most wrong way drivers occur in the middle of the night when people are intoxicated, get confused, and go the wrong way. Okay? But most of the time, not an issue. Right? Pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles and slow-moving vehicles are not permitted on most expressways. There are some where the expressway is literally the only main thoroughfare through there, and so farm trucks and things will be permitted to use those. But generally the speed limit does drop down in those areas to something much more reasonable. Wide shoulders and extra wide underpasses provide a good escape paths in the event that you need to find yourself an out because stuff has gone very bad in traffic ahead of you. Okay? And then expressways are designed to help drivers anticipate conditions well ahead. They give you the signs telling you how far it is to your exit, how far it is to certain cities. You know, once you start driving towards something, you're usually going to find a sign that's indicating to you how far it is to that place. All right, now entering an expressway. Now this right here is the most dangerous of the on-ramps because this is the Spice Girls song, right? This is the lane where two become one. And with this comes extra responsibility, extra stuff we need to do to stay safe. All right. But now is the time to use the accelerator. All right. As you're approaching the expressway, we need to get up to speed. You need to be signaling while still in the acceleration lane. That's that lane that brings you up to the expressway. Okay. And should you be going slower or faster than the traffic you plan on merging with? Neither. We need to be looking. We need to match their speed, find a gap, position ourselves to wind up in the gap by either moving forward or backwards in our positioning, and then continuing at the same speed as the traffic, merge comfortably, safely, without scaring the bejesus out of anybody. All right? Don't be afraid to use the entire acceleration lane until you have a safe, clear zone to merge into, but you got to be looking ahead of time, because if you don't plan for that safe zone, it's not going to always randomly just appear for you. Okay? And I've been in situations where other individuals are not traveling fast enough. If you're going to use this kind of on-ramp, get to the speed. If you are going under the speed limit, under the speed that the other drivers are going, you're running the risk of a collision. If there's another vehicle coming behind you and you don't get up to speed, it's you and the vehicle behind you in severe peril. So if you cannot get up to speed, if you don't have the distance required to do so, do not try to use this kind of on-ramp, people. Right? I have seen people try to make like a literal, they cut across 3 lanes of traffic and turn right onto an on-ramp only to get up to 30 miles an hour while I'm screaming because traffic's going 65 and I'm stuck behind them because I was too stupid to exit back onto frontage before I hit that point of no return. And I was almost hit from behind. I mean, it was freaking scary. So please make sure that you can get up to speed if you're going to use this. All right? All right. Now, exiting an expressway. Okay. Now, you should maintain your speed until you reach the deceleration lane. Until you move over and you get in that lane that's going to let you get off, stay the speed limit. Keep going the speed you were going until you hit where that white V is. Once you hit where that white V is, then we start slowing down dramatically. Because if you slow down ahead of time, if you slow down before you get to that point, other exiting vehicles that are going as fast as they were going could inadvertently hit you from behind. So make sure that you wait until you're already at that point where no one else should be exiting in front of you, and then we start that dramatic slowdown to whatever speed you're going to need to be going. Right? And now, one of my favorite things about the first half of today's lesson is this lesson right here. Why? Because we're going to teach you how to navigate and how you can, know where you're going without ever taking your eyes off the roadway. So check it out. There is one road that will take you from San Antonio to Los Angeles. Okay. There is another that will take you from New York to San Francisco. Okay. Expressways that travel east and west are even numbered. Expressways that travel north and south are odd numbered. That's why a majority of the expressways down here are odd numbered, because everything is trying to get out of the valley. Everything's trying to go north because we're that little pink dot at the very bottom of that map. It's like the lowest point in the United States, other than Hawaii, is the valley. It's down here. All right. So we've got a lot of odd numbered because those go out. But now you know, even number travel east and west, odd travel north and south. All right. And then we got mile markers. And using mile markers, we can identify if we're heading north or south, or east or west, right? So mile markers tell you where you are in relation to the state, in relation to, or where you are in the state, in relation to the westernmost point of the state and the southernmost point of the state, aka the valley, right? Okay. So if you're traveling north or east, the numbers are going to go up. But if you're coming back towards the valley or you're traveling west, the numbers are going to be going down, right? North, numbers go up. South, numbers go down. East, numbers go up. West, numbers go down. Okay. Nice and easy. Okay. Okay. And if you're on an even number highway and the mile markers are going down, because they're going down and the road is even numbered, we know that it travels east and west, even for east and west. And going down, we know we're going west. Going up, we know we're going east. Very easy, right? All right, and then mile markers and exit numbers. So exit numbers correspond to the mile marker that will arrive after the exit. All right, so exit 1 comes before mile marker 1. Between mile marker 1 and mile marker 2, we've got 2 exits. So the exits are listed as 2A and 2B. All right, between mile marker 2 and 3, we have 1 exit, so it's just exit 3. But between 3 and 4, we've got exit 4A, 4B, 4C. Okay. Now, if there are 2 exits, and so it's always going to be like that. All right. Exit 255A is within 1 mile of 255F, if there is such a thing. Okay. That's the point that I'm trying to make. We know that as long as the mile marker matches up, then that means that our letter is going to be coming up within 1 mile, because it's definitely going to be before we've traveled a full mile, because then we'd hit another mile marker. Okay? So now, check this out. Let's say you're approaching mile marker 147. Okay, the mile markers have been counting down and you're on expressway 2. Okay? Now, what direction are you traveling? Well, the numbers have been going down, and you're on expressway 2, an even number. That means you're going east or west. Because the numbers have been going down, we're going west. We're going towards the origin. We're going towards the corner of the graph. Right? So we're traveling west. Nice and easy, right? Now, let's say you're trying to get to exit number 122. Okay, how far are you from your exit? Okay. Well, you would in fact be 25 miles. Okay. Now, you can figure that out super quick with math. Your mile marker minus the exit you're looking for tells you how many miles you got to go. All right? You're on mile marker 147. You're looking for exit 122. That's 100 minus 100 is 0. 40 minus 20 is 20. 7 minus 2 is 5, so 25 miles. Boom. Nice and quick, nice and easy. All right? And that means that in 25 miles, you'll be reaching your exit. And all you had to do was think. You verified that you were in fact going west, and you now know you are 25 miles from your exit. No phone, no GPS, no electronic device, and you didn't have to take your eyes off the roadway. So once you know what exit you're looking for, you're good. You can wait to check that next step, or listen, like if you've got Google Maps going, hey, continue until you arrive at, or blah, blah, blah miles for exit number blah, blah, blah. And now you know I'm just looking for this exit number. And whether the voice tells me or not, I know that that's the exit I'm looking for. Right? It's fantastic. Now, let's go ahead and skip past these, and we're going to get to the sharing the roadway stuff. So posted speed limit signs indicate maximum speeds, but only under ideal conditions. All right, which of the following provides information and warnings about the driving situation ahead? Posted speed limits. Steve, how does a speed limit tell me about the situation ahead? Well, it's quite simple, really. If the speed limit's going down to 30 miles an hour, you are going to be entering a urban district. You are going to be in city. That's why the speed limit's slowing down. So that's telling you that you're going to be seeing businesses, potentially schools and houses. Okay? Now, let's say you're driving on a road and the speed limit goes from 45 to 70. Well, now we know that we're going to be seeing way less houses, way less traffic, and, way more space in between everything. Because the speed limit went up dramatically, and to the maximum, we also know that we have a nice, safe, paved road ahead of us, because generally speaking, they're not going to set the maximum speed limit on that roadway to the maximum allowable for that kind of roadway, unless it's a maximum quality road. Okay? So posted speed limit signs will give you information about what's going on. You see speed limits are going down, you know you're approaching a city. You see speed limits are going up, you know you're leaving a city. It's that easy, folks. And that's how posted speed limit signs can warn you about the driving situation ahead. Right? A freeway interchange does not have entrance ramps and acceleration lanes. Those are expressway things. A freeway, a highway, those are all just words for roads with intersections. And roads with intersections do not have exit ramps or acceleration lanes. Now, when you are passing a vehicle on a 2-lane highway, it is safe to pull back into your lane when you can see both headlights of the vehicle you are passing in your left side rear view mirror. Okay? Now, inside is the safest one to use. Left side's the one over here. So that means you got to be way ahead of the vehicle. But as long as they're in your inside rear view mirror, you can see both headlights, you're good there. Okay? And then you may cross a double yellow line to pass another vehicle if the line on your side of the double yellow line is broken. Okay? A solid yellow line indicates a no passing situation. But if the line is broken, you do have permission to pass in that area. Right? Number 6, solid yellow lines on a roadway indicate no passing situations, as I just said. And then number 7, if you are driving at the posted speed limit, most of the other vehicles are driving 70 or faster, you may legally drive no faster than 65 miles an hour and only under ideal conditions. If everyone else is speeding, well, everyone else was shooting people in the face, that doesn't give you a right to shoot people in the face. Well, it holds true for any other crime. Okay, if everyone else is breaking a law, that does not make it okay for you to break it. All right? I mean, that's how people get littering tickets and things like that, because they get caught. Now, intersections and sharing the roadway. All right, and this is going to be a little bit more, video driven because, well, you need to see how the vehicles interact. All right, we need to see the right way to do stuff, and for that, videos are beneficial. So the second half of class, a little more fun, a little bit more soda drinking time for Steve. I'm go make me a cup of coffee too. Now, what clues identify an intersection ahead? Well, we'll have street signs and street lights, roadway markings, crossing traffic, parked vehicles on the cross street, turning traffic, rows of fences and mailboxes, because fences only go to the corner and then they turn. So if you see the fence turn, you're maybe arriving at an intersection. And of course, turning traffic, stopping, traffic stops at stop signs, red lights, and those are good indicators of intersections. And then power lines. Power lines generally only cross the street at intersections. Why? Because they want to make sure that they have sufficient space to work on them, and intersections provide that without them blocking the entire road. You will still be able to get around them, just not as efficiently, but if they did that in the roadway, they could easily block 2 lanes of traffic and make a road completely impassable while they do work. So they put all these things at intersections, that way they have that extra room to work. All right, so approaching intersections. All right, what zones are you focusing on? We focus on our left front, and our right front zone. What are we looking for? As we're approaching the intersection, we're looking to the left and right for other traffic, line of sight restrictions, which are, boom. These things are going to prevent us being able to see other vehicles and judge whether or not they're going to do what they need to do. Okay? So crossing traffic, what do? Number 1, we look. Okay? Number 2, we prepare to stop. We come to our stop, we do our 1, 2, 3 full seconds whether we needed it or not. And once it is safe and clear for us to do so, then we check to the right and continue through. Right? As you're stopped, you should be looking. Why do we only look to the right as we move forward? Well, while you're stopped, you just checked that nothing was coming from the left. The last lane we cross, traffic will be coming from the right. So that's why we look in that one direction for pulling straight through. Okay? For a right turn, we look to the left. Once you come to the intersection, you approach, you look on your approach. Once you're ready to go, 1, 2, 3, everything's awesome. You give one last look to the left, because that's the direction that traffic's going to be coming from. Okay? And we always let the pedestrians through. If there were 5,000 people waiting at a crosswalk, and they all wanted to go through, we would have to wait for all 5,000, because the law states once there are no people waiting to use the crosswalk, then you can go. Okay? So hope that there's no fun run or anything like that going on. All right? But in those situations, generally they'll have police directing traffic away from there. But anyway, check left while turning, because that's the only direction that trouble will be coming from, unless someone crosses the yellow line to come at you head first. And that's not something we should be worried about right away. We need to consider that everyone else is going to be doing their part to drive safe and kind of work off of that. Once we turn our face in that direction, then, we're now watching to see for crazy beats. All right? But check left while turning and then continue on, get up to speed. All right, for turning left though, we are crossing literally every lane except other lanes going in our direction. Every other lane we're going to cut across. And in a situation where it's a 2-lane road, crossing or turning onto a 2-lane road, you're going to be crossing through every single lane by doing this. So as we approach, we look left and right because we're checking for traffic. When we stop, we look left and right because we're checking for traffic. As we're turning, we look left and then we look right and we look forward because a car could hit us from any of those directions as we make our left turn. And then finally, once you verify that everything's good, you check right, you check forward, then you look to the left and continue on. And do not accelerate when you are in position 3, all right? You begin to accelerate once your turn is almost done. So check it out. I'm going to turn straight that way, and this is the direction my vehicle's pointing. Not accelerating, not accelerating, not accelerating, starting to accelerate, and going. Because that's now the direction I wanted to be in. But not until you're almost there. Because if you start right here and you start gunning it, what could happen is your car could overcorrect, and then you're heading off the roadway. You could lose control. So make sure you don't start accelerating until you are 90% done with the turn, and you just need that last little bit to straighten out. That's when we start accelerating. All right? There we go. 1 second. No. And then stale green lights. All right? A light that has been green for a long time and will soon turn yellow, or any light that you have no idea when it turned green and you have no idea when it's going to turn yellow, is a stale green light. All right, how do we prepare for those? Well, you slow down. Take your foot off the accelerator as you're approaching an intersection. If you're going to make it, you're going to make it. If you're not, there's like a 3-second gap. Like if you hadn't slowed down, you could have made it. But only if you exist within this 3 seconds of space on the roadway. So not big enough to warrant it being a thing to worry about. So take your foot off the accelerator as you're approaching a green light. Right? Cover the brake with your driving foot, with your accelerating foot, and use the pedestrian signals you see while approaching the intersection to gauge whether or not you're going to make it through. All right? So here's how they work. You see a little walking dude on the street or across the street? That's a green light, going to be green for a little bit. All right? Once the hand comes up, though, and starts blinking, the countdown to yellow begins. Okay? So blink, blink, blink. Once it becomes solid, the light turns yellow, and then somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 3 seconds later, the light is going to turn red. So if the light turns yellow and you are not in that point of no return, you come to a stop and you stop at the intersection. If you're in the point of no return, well, then you continue through because you'll make it through. Right? And then when you've got that little countdown, well, that thing's amazing because when it hits 0, you can go 1, 2, the light changes to yellow, and then 1 to 3 seconds later, the light changes to red. So if you have enough time to get to the intersection based on the timer, then continue to go. If you see that there's no way you're going to get there based on the timer, then just be prepared to slow down. Be prepared to stop because you're going to have to. Okay? Not all intersections have that, but the ones that do, it's really awesome. It's beneficial and it's very helpful. All right? Now, a delayed green light, I love and hate these things because I've only ever gotten stuck on one once, and it took me 15 minutes to get a green light and go. And I was like, oh my God, is this thing busted? Because it didn't have the delayed green light sign. It just was a delayed green light. You have two options in this situation. That light is going to stay red for you, and if you just kind of like run it and get across, law enforcement can give you a ticket. And in some areas, that may be a common like traffic trap. They may have an officer just chilling there watching to see people do that to give them tickets because it is dangerous. And the reason the delayed green light exists is because that dangerous crossing has taken lives when people have to use their better judgment because they're not properly gauging the speed. Usually it's like some 40-mile-an-hour road crossing a 70-mile-an-hour road, right? Usually it's a road that's got lots of trucks and heavy vehicles that would utterly wreck your stuff if you put your family car out in front of it, right? So what are your options? One, you wait. The real options are you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and when the light goes green, you go across and go, thank goodness that wasn't 2 hours. Thank goodness that wasn't twice as long. You remind yourself that it could have been worse. The other option, if you're impatient, is you make a right turn on red. Once you have made your full 1, 2, 3, verified no traffic is coming, you make a right turn, you go down the road, find a location to turn around, or make a legal U-turn, come back up to the intersection and turn right. Problem is that pretty much every time I hear a story about someone doing that to avoid a delayed green light, they show up and the damn light was red for them, and it would have been green for them just to cut across, and it took them a little bit longer to finish their move because they had to come to that stop, do their 3 seconds, and then go. Well, most people at least pretended to do that in their story. But yeah, everyone was like, yeah, and then I come back up to it, and nah, it's red. And I would have been able to go before then, before I even got there. So just be patient, but if you can't, remember, you may make a legal right turn on red, wait till you can make a legal U-turn or get turned around in a business, and then come back up and make another right turn to get onto the proper side. But don't just cut across and run the red because that is putting your life in jeopardy. Now, determining the right of way. Okay? The right of way is the privilege of immediate use of the roadway. Right? And what does that mean? That means anytime two paths cross, vehicle or pedestrian, someone has the privilege of going first. Here's how we determine the right of way. All right? So you yield at stop signs to pedestrians in or near the crosswalk and all cross traffic on the through street. All right? That's for a two-way stop. Okay? You yield at a fresh green light to pedestrians still in the crosswalk and vehicles still in the intersection. Because green does not mean go. Green means you may go once everything is safe and clear. Okay? You yield when coming from an alley, driveway, or private roadway. An alley, driveway, or private roadway, that could be like a business driveway, because businesses are private property. That could be, your little colonia alley behind your house where the garbage truck likes to drive through and pick up everyone's stuff, because that is an alley. Okay. Any of these situations where you do not have traffic controls, you are last in order of priority. Everyone gets to go ahead of you, and then when it's safe for you and you're not going to be interfering with anyone else, then you may go. Okay. You must yield at all yield signs to all pedestrians in or near the crosswalk, because pedestrians get the right of way when they're at a crosswalk, and all vehicles on the cross street. We do not go if we have a yield sign until, once again, everything is safe and clear. Okay? You yield to all emergency vehicles sounding a siren or using a flashing light. Stop clear of the intersection, close to the curb, wait for the emergency vehicle to pass. Okay? Because in the event that it needs to turn in your direction, we need to make sure that we give them all the room necessary. All right. Yield at four-way stops to all pedestrians in or near crosswalks. Vehicles that arrive first, because FIFO, first in, first out, is one of the ways to determine the right-of-way. And then if everyone arrives at the same time, or people arrive at the same time, then it's the vehicle to the right that has the right-of-way. That's why it's called the right-of-way. Okay. Now, yield at uncontrolled intersections. That's intersections in either new subdivisions or places where there's new roads and still no traffic controls. To pedestrians in or near the crosswalk, any vehicle that have already entered the intersection ahead of you, or vehicles from the right if you both arrive at the same time. Okay, treat it like a four-way stop. Okay? Now, sharing the roadway with motorcycles. Honestly, just a great little video about ways that we can share the roadway with motorcycles and be safe. The only addition that I have is that under adverse weather conditions, motorcycles are doubly affected by things like wind and rain. So please always make sure you give them that extra room in bad weather, because sometimes they just get stuck and they're riding and they really have no choice but to continue riding to get home. So please be extra careful under those kind of inclement weather situations. All right, but here we go. Sharing the roadway with motorcycles.
In order to determine the correct following distance behind a motorcycle, you take the distance, you multiply it times 2, you divide it by 4, and add a hypotenuse of a right triangle.
Correct following distance isn't rocket science. It's good common sense. The most important thing to remember is that you are sharing the road with motorcycles. They have the same roadway privileges that you have. Following distances are different for motorcycles. In most cases, a motorcycle can stop at a shorter distance than your car. You are learning that 3 to 4 seconds between you and the car in front of you is satisfactory. For a motorcycle, you should try to leave 5 or 6 seconds. A motorcycle doesn't take up an entire lane. As a driver, you must allow a rider all the space in that lane. Don't crowd a motorcycle. The rider may have to swerve to avoid an object in the road. And don't cut into a motorcycle's lane when you pass it. Give a motorcycle as much space as a car. You don't need a ruler or protractor. Just give a motorcyclist the space he or she needs to safely share the road with you.
One can calculate the proper left turn on ordinary graph paper. Each square on this sheet equals 1 foot. First, draw out the intersection, making sure all your measurements are exactly right.
Graph paper and measurements? You don't need that. You just need a few extra seconds before beginning your left turn. When a driver enters a left turn lane, there is often approaching traffic. A normal reaction is to locate a gap in the approaching traffic. When the gap arrives, the turn begins. The problem? There was a motorcycle in that gap, hidden by oncoming traffic. Don't anticipate a turn. Take an extra second or two to check for a motorcycle behind approaching traffic. It's easy to do. No pencil or graph paper required. Just wait an extra second and look before turning left. While you're at it, take an extra second and look again before turning left or right. It's easy to miss a motorcycle in traffic, and a motorcycle's speed of approach can be deceiving. Look and look again.
I invented these new X-ray glasses that let you see all around you, not just straight ahead. Oh, didn't see that coming.
Motorcycles are hard to see. Add the blind spot that most automobiles and trucks have, and the task becomes harder. You can't trust your mirrors exclusively. You have to turn your head and look through the side windows. That's why your head swivels. If you don't make a habit of checking your blind spot, one of these days there will be a motorcycle in it. Look and then look again. It's a good driving habit to develop. Sharing the road with motorcycles isn't rocket science. We've all got a right to be on the road together. We just have to watch out for each other. Don't follow motorcycles too closely. Wait an extra second or two to make sure the roadway is clear before turning left or right. And check your vehicle's blind spots by looking out the side windows. You'll be a better driver, and you'll be sharing the road safely with motorcycles.
Great advice, and that extra second really does help because a lot of times we do have little vehicles. And one other little thing that I can add to help you out, if you're pretty sure there's a motorcycle around you but you can't spot it, if you're driving, just crack your windows. Motorcycle engines are remarkably loud and you can hear them over the sound of other vehicles. And if there is a motorcycle in close vicinity to you and you crack your windows, you'll hear that telltale engine noise. All right, and so even though you can't see it, you'll know it's there in your blind spot somewhere. All right, now we're going to be talking about, or the video is going to be talking about sharing the roadway with trucks. And the only thing that I do not like in this entire video is they point out that it is a wonderful idea that if you are within a mile, do not attempt to get ahead of a truck if you're within a mile of your exit. My opinion, when it comes to it, is it's easier to get behind someone than to out-accelerate them. So when you're merging on and there's, like an 18-wheeler in that lane you're going to be getting into, it's going to be easier to just get behind them than ahead of them. And when you're exiting out, it's easier to get behind the 18-wheeler than to try to get around them because those are exceptionally large vehicles. And it can take you a bit of distance just to get past them. And remember, passing distance and safe distance ahead of them before you get the ability to get back into the lane could take you a good bit of distance, a mile or two. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything the safest way possible. And in my opinion, trying to get ahead of the 18-wheeler is just kind of like you flexing that you're going to get there 3 seconds faster because there's no reason to not just do it behind the 18-wheeler where you don't have 70,000 pounds of death chasing you and ready to take you if you make a mistake. That's just my position on it, but you could think different. All right, so here you go. Sharing the roadway with tracks. Come on, buddy. Let's go. And the guy that they have doing this video with them drove 1,000,000+ miles as a delivery driver for a freight company. That is amazing. That is a ridiculous amount of mileage to not have any accidents, and I tip my hat to that gentleman because that is an impressive feat. I hope we can all be as awesome.
We're here at the Michigan International Speedway. This place is huge.
It has a grandstand capacity of 136,000 people. That doesn't include the fans in the infield, the racing teams, or the people that run the place. The track is over 2 miles long, and some of the best racers in the world drive here, including NASCAR and kart teams. But we're not here to race today. We're here to learn how to share the road with big trucks. And believe it or not, this is one of the safest places to teach you. While we're used to thinking of race car drivers as professional drivers, I'd like to introduce you to another kind of professional driver. This is Dave Gula. Dave is a professional truck driver who's going to be helping us out today by driving our tractor trailer. Now, Dave doesn't drive a truck around a track like this at 200 miles per hour, but he is a trained professional just like the guys who race here. Dave, what does it take to be a professional truck driver?
Well, it takes a lot of training and a lot of experience, Curtis. Not to mention a special license. I've been driving for 18 years and logged over 1 million miles without being responsible for a crash. And I have a family at home that thinks that's a pretty special thing. If there's something I can do out here to help other drivers get home to their families, that's great.
That's a lot of miles, Dave. How does that happen?
Well, you have to be informed, alert, and follow some of the same basic rules as other drivers I'm sharing the road with. Making some adjustments for the type of vehicle I'm driving. It's not a car, and people driving around me need to understand the differences.
Well, that's what we're here to learn about today. Now, let's meet our driver education students that are going to be with us while we learn about sharing the road with large trucks. We have Christine, Clarence, and Teresa. Any questions?
Yeah, can we check out the truck?
Sure. Nice ride. Why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. This is a Kenworth W900. Has a Detroit diesel engine which puts out 450 horsepower. It's capable of pulling 80,000 pounds. It weighs 25,000 pounds with the full-size trailer. Up here on the panel, you have all your critical information about how the vehicle is operating. You have your engine speed, your road speed, your axle temperature, your air pressure thrust. And down here, you have your 13-speed shifter, which takes us through all the gears we need to move that kind of weight over different grades. You got your radio and your tape player, your CB radio, oh, and your seat belts. I always buckle up in my truck, in my car, and so do my passengers. Back here, you have your sleeper cab. And out here, you have all the mirrors we need to keep visual contact on all the traffic around us.
That's a lot of mirrors.
That is a lot of mirrors. And truck drivers need them to see what's going on around them. Now let's go outside and learn about blind spots and nose zones where truck drivers can't see you. What you're seeing here is a truck in 3 lanes of traffic with cars in front, on both sides, and behind. Now from here, we can see the truck and the cars. From inside the truck, we can see all the cars. Hey Dave, can you see any cars?
I can see 4 cars.
Let's move the cars until Dave can't see them either with his mirrors or in a direct sight line. We'll stop the cars when they first become invisible. Okay, Dave, can you see any cars now?
I don't see any cars.
These cars are blind spots or no zones. You don't want to stay there when driving around a truck. You want to pass through them quickly. If a truck driver can't see you, bad things can happen. For example, if you're in the blind spot on the driver's side of a truck, and he has to make a lane change to let in merging traffic, and he can't see you, you could easily get hit. Blind spots and no zones are in front of trucks, on both sides, and behind. They're different for different trucks, but they all have them because of their size. A good rule to remember is that if you can't see a truck's mirrors, the driver can't see you.
Blind spots are areas where truck drivers are unable to see your vehicle. Stay out of these no zones whenever possible and move through them quickly when necessary. If you are unable to see the driver in his mirrors, he's unable to see you.
We're standing here at the entrance to pit row. One of the most dangerous things in racing is getting on and off the track to make pit stops for fuel and tire changes. That's because merging and exiting with traffic around can be difficult. It's really not any different than getting on and off our freeways. You have to deal with tight spaces and changing rates of speed. And just like in racing, the other vehicles may not be able to change what they're doing. Dave, what are some concerns that truckers have when dealing with cars entering and exiting the freeways?
Well, when getting onto the freeway, you got to pick your spot and go. You don't want to get caught next to me at the last second because there may be vehicles on the other side that you can't see and I might not be able to move over. When leaving the freeway, you don't want to pull too closely in front of me and don't slow down abruptly in front of me. Big trucks can't slow down as easily as cars.
Exactly. Let's go out on the track and see what good merging and exiting looks like. From up here in the truck, we can see our merging traffic coming pretty clearly.
Our student driver has picked a spot in front of the truck and has matched the flow for a smooth entrance just ahead of us. Now we're in the car behind our truck, and we're going to see how to make a proper exit around the truck. Passing the truck, we make sure we travel quickly through the blind spots. When we're safely ahead where the driver can see us, and we can see his headlights and the truck's front tires in the rearview mirror, we use our turn signal and enter the lane ahead of him. And here's the important thing. We maintain our speed until we enter the exit lane. Don't slow down when you're in the lane with the truck.
When merging into moving traffic, pick your spot and go. Move with the flow of the traffic as closely as possible. When exiting, wait to enter the deceleration lane before slowing down. Always pass trucks on the left. Always signal your intention as early as possible. If you're within a mile of your exit, don't try to pass. Pull in behind the truck and wait until you can safely turn into the exit lane and decelerate. Never try to race a truck to an exit.
Dave, earlier you mentioned that trucks can't slow down as fast as cars. How big a difference is there?
There's quite a bit. It can pose some real problems if we're not given the proper space. Trucks have to deal with basic physics like everything else. For instance, inertia. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. How long it's going to take a truck to stop is basically going to rely on two things: how fast it's going and how much weight it's carrying. The more weight, the more time needed to slow down that momentum. A truck hauling steel will stop a lot slower than a truck hauling eggs.
How about a little experiment to show the difference between trucks and cars?
Sure.
Dave has got our truck coming around the track at 55 miles per hour. When he reaches the pylons where Clarence is standing, he's going to brake as hard as he can while still maintaining safe control of the vehicle. Earlier, we had Christine do the same thing with her car, and we left it where we can compare stopping distances. Here comes the truck now. Wow, it's a good thing we didn't leave Christine's car in the same lane. Our truck went 40 feet beyond where the car stopped, and the trailer was empty. This represents a best-case scenario for stopping a truck. So how much distance do you need in front of a truck in order to stop safely? Well, that depends. The important thing is to stay alert and be aware of the trucks around you. Always leave yourself an out, and remember, the trucks are looking out too. This chart shows stopping distances for cars at 30, 40, and 55 miles per hour. It includes perception and decision time, reaction time, and actual braking time. For trucks, you can safely add 20 to 30%. I'm standing in the middle of an intersection. But don't worry, it's an intersection we made here at MIS to show you some of the problems we encounter with trucks off the freeway. The first item I'd like to bring your attention to is this big white line. It's here for a reason. You need to stop behind it. If you stop in front of it, trucks and other large vehicles won't be able to complete their turns without hitting you. For example, Teresa is in the left lane waiting for the imaginary light. She's past the white line. We're going to mark where the front of her car is and move her car back behind the white line. Dave is going to make a left-hand turn in the truck. Let's see what happens. Oh no! It's a good thing Teresa moved her car behind the white line, or she'd be doing some explaining to the parents. At a busy intersection, you might not be able to move your car. Then you've got a big mess.
If you are the first vehicle to arrive at an intersection with a traffic signal or stop sign, make sure to stop behind the white stopping line. Trucks need space in front of the line to safely complete turns.
There's another situation at an intersection that we'd like to call your attention to. Have you ever seen a truck parked like this? You know what? He did it on purpose. And here comes Clarence pulling right up behind him. There's room on the right, and he's going to try and pull up alongside him, but we're not going to let him. You know why? Because this truck is trying to make a right-hand turn. Clarence should have known that from the flashing turn indicator and the position of the truck. The important thing is that Clarence stays behind the truck. Let's put some cones up where Clarence wanted to go. Okay, Dave, go ahead and make that right-hand turn. Trucks sometimes need part of the left lane to make wide enough right-hand turns. Otherwise, they may hit the curb or objects close to it. Make sure that object isn't your car. Those cones sure are taking a beating today.
Trucks make wide right turns. When approaching an intersection, check for turn signals. If a truck is indicating a right turn, stay behind it. Don't try to squeeze by on the right.
All the things we've talked about today are important elements to sharing the road with big trucks. They'll all help you be a safer driver and get you home in one piece. And they all have one thing in common. They require that you pay attention. More people under the age of 25 die in car crashes than from any other cause. You're getting ready to do something dangerous. You need to pay attention. Don't let friends or the radio station or a mobile phone take your focus away from what you're doing. Driving. Stay focused. Now let's review some of the things we talked about today.
Remember that trucks need more space to turn than cars. Always remember to stop behind the white lines at intersections to leave room for them. Trucks have blind spots just like cars, only bigger. Travel through them quickly and never stay in them for prolonged periods. Trucks make wide right-hand turns. Check for turn signals when you see trucks at intersections and leave them space. When merging into moving traffic, pick your spot and go, matching the flow of other vehicles. When exiting, wait to enter the deceleration lane before slowing down. If you're within a mile of your exit, don't try to pass. Pull in behind the truck and wait until you can safely turn into the exit lane and decelerate. Trucks need more time to stop and slow down than cars do. Never brake abruptly in front of a truck.
Those distances
Remember,
are ideal.
these rules apply to all kinds of driving. And thanks for taking the time today to learn how to share the road with big trucks. Dave has driven over 1 million miles without a crash. If you keep these ideas in mind, maybe you can do that too. Be safe.
And how off could those numbers be? Well, a truck with a trailer attached weighs about 25,000 pounds. A fully loaded truck will weigh a maximum of 70,000 pounds. 70,000. That means you can nearly triple the weight, which would also triple the stopping distance. So an empty truck may be able to stop 15% or within 15% of the distance that it took your regular vehicle to stop. But a fully loaded truck is going to take significantly longer. Okay, that best case scenario where the truck stopped a full vehicle length ahead of that car could have been 3 times as far had it been fully laden, and that would have been hundreds of feet ahead. So please bear that in mind, folks. Now, the next part of the videos that we're going to check out, the next thing that we're going to be watching are vehicle crash tests with the safety gear mounted on the back of different trailers. All right, we're going to see some successful ones where the equipment saves or would have saved lives. And we're going to see what it looks like when it fails, and I'm going to explain to you exactly how the crash test dummy would have died for, that little bit of reference in case you couldn't figure it out on your own. So here goes the first crash. Boom, 100% of the car collides with the back of the trailer at 35 miles an hour. And the safety bar does not buckle, does not bend. It, in fact, stops the vehicle before the passenger compartment is breached. Thus, everyone stays safe. Isn't that fantastic? When something works right, the safety features ensure that the accident stays away from you, the driver, and keeps you nice and safe. Gotta love it when stuff goes the way it's supposed to. And look at how brutal this damage is. Look at that. That rectangular tube across the middle right there was the frame of the vehicle. The frame is basically the skeleton that the entire vehicle is built off of. All right, so that was a 35 mile an hour, 100% overlap test. The next test is going to be a 50% overlap. That means half the car is going to hit, half the car is going to miss, same speed, and same passing grade. So let's check it out. Now, boom, we saw that the vehicle rotated a little bit at the end of the collision. That's part of the crush distance. The crush in the front and the rotate is the total crush distance. Right? And once again, damage was reduced. Safety equipment took it like a champ. the driver compartment, the cab, was not entered by the 18-wheeler's parts because the safety equipment obliterated the car but did what it had to, and boom, the vehicle stopped again, our frame dead center. Okay. Now we have a 35-mile-an-hour crash with a 30% overlap. This means it's going to have more rotation because less of the force is going straight forward, or more rotation because less of the force is going straight forward. So there's going to be more crush distance, and the individuals in this collision would experience less physical trauma than the previous two. Okay, so let's check that one out. So nice. Once again, even though only 30% of the car hits, the vehicle rotates, and the compartment, the cab, is not broached because this safety equipment is next level tough. That's what that little angled bar in the back for, is for additional support, and it stops the car cold. Okay? This is fantastic. Even the backs of 18-wheelers have safety equipment that's going to try to reduce the amount of trauma that you experience in the event of a collision. Okay? And I mean, look at that. It's just chewing through fiberglass, metal, and just so that you know, new engines are designed to drop in the event of a collision like this. That means they go into a square that's in on the end of the frame, and they will not rush into your vehicle or your passenger compartment. However, older vehicles were not designed like this. So if you're driving a classic car and you have a high-speed front-end collision, there is a chance that the motor will be pushed into the compartment with the passengers because it didn't have that modern design in there. So as of course, always we want to try to avoid collisions, and bear that in mind that newer vehicles have much better safety stuff than the classic vehicles, even though I love the classics. All right, so now we're going to take a look at what happens when a test fails and passes, and then we'll look at that failure all by itself in its own little video. So let's see side by side. All right, so there's a pass. The vehicle hits the post, and the post holds tough. Vehicle rotates, and everyone's relatively fine. There, that post bent and immediately failed, and look, for the first time, the windshield was reached by the trailer. For the first time, the windshield was damaged by the trailer because, well, the trailer went into the passenger compartment. So let's check that out independently and see what kind of damage the driver will be experiencing here. And boom. All right, so let's watch that in super slow motion. Keep your eye on his pink head, pink head, pink head, back seat, pink head. Okay. In the event that this was an actual living, breathing human being, right there is the moment where he would have been thoroughly decapitated, and his or her head would have wound up in the back seat in somebody's lap. And the people in the back seat would have had a really bad day because I don't know if you noticed, but that whole hood, look, you can see it right here on the inside cam, just kind of crumples in. And I mean, that could have like hit someone on top of the head, knocked them unconscious, or I mean, just the overall trauma of swinging forward because of the collision itself could have put your head into a position where you really just give yourself a massive concussion in that. All right, folks, that's safety equipment. That's why it's important that we be careful, because though every vehicle is equipped with safety equipment fails when people are cheap about replacing it. All right. So bear that in mind. Now we get to the final chapter review, so let's go through the questions and then we'll go through the answers at the end. All right, so number one, most pedestrian collisions occur. Is that during rush hour, at marked crossings, during normal weather, or at intersections? Right? And what they mean by at marked crossings would be like crosswalks. Right? Number two, right? You are driving on a city street and have the green light. A pedestrian begins to cross the street ahead of you. You should tell the pedestrian to return to the curb. You can drive behind him as he crosses. You must change lanes, or you must stop even if the light is green. What do we do when a pedestrian begins to cross the street ahead of us? All right, number three, mopeds are restricted from. Now, in case you didn't remember this from the homework assignment, mopeds are partially motorized, slow-moving vehicles. Those are those bicycles that have the little motors on them. You can either pedal or engage the motor once you're up to speed. All right, so are they restricted from high-speed roadways, roadways after dark, rush hour traffic, or passing other vehicles? Number 4, most states require that when a school bus is stopped to load or unload passengers on a two-way street, drivers in both directions must stop. Drivers should slow and prepare to stop. Drivers in the oncoming lane must stop, or drivers in the same lane must stop. Okay, what is it that's required in those states? Right? And then here the two motorcyclists are riding in an offset position too. They absolutely look cool, but that's not why they're doing it. Is it to maneuver within their lane? Is it to prepare for a left turn? Or is that to increase following distance from the vehicle ahead? Number 6, to avoid traction reducing conditions, motorcycle and scooter riders reduce speed, increase speed, swerve to the left, or change lane position. Number 7, you are the driver of the yellow car. You are not in the no zone area. You are rushing to get away from a tailgating car. You are moving out of the no zone area, or you are in the largest no zone area. And then number 8, when an emergency vehicle approaches with a siren, you should stop where you are, turn off the road, pull over to the right and stop until it passes, or speed up and get out of the way as quickly as possible. Right? So number 1, most pedestrian collision occurs the same place bicycle collisions and vehicle collisions occur most of the time. Intersections. Right? You are driving in a city street and have a green light. A pedestrian begins to cross the street ahead of you. You must stop even if the light is green. Pedestrians always get the right of way because, well, they are not going to win the competition of a human body versus a speeding car. Right? Mopeds are restricted from high-speed roadways because they are by definition slow-moving vehicles. Right? Most states require that when a school bus is stopped to load or unload passengers on a two-way street, drivers should slow down and prepare to stop. You only need to stop if they are still loading or unloading children when you arrive at their location. Right? The two motorcyclists are riding in an offset position to maneuver within their lane. Right? They don't ride right next to each other because in the event that they need to swerve to avoid a piece of debris or detritus, because motorcycles don't have the option of just driving over it because one wheel or two wheels means, that sort of stuff can cause instant loss of traction. Right? So they just don't have that as an option, so they're doing that to maneuver within their lane. To avoid traction reducing conditions, motorcycle and scooter riders will change lane position. You go to where the distance traveled during the curve is the greatest and you have the most traction. If you move in closest to the curve, you're moving into where the travel distance is the smallest and you have the highest chance for a loss of traction. You have a higher chance of Newtonian physics getting a hold of you and making you continue in a straight line when you're trying to turn. So to avoid traction reducing conditions, motorcycle and scooter riders, their first go-to move is change lane positions. We do also reduce speed, but that's, when plan B shows us that, we're going to need to slow down further because that road's not traction-y. All right. Now, you are the driver of the yellow car. You are in the largest no zone area. That 18-wheeler can see the silver car, but not you. You need to move. Remember, Smith system, be seen, right? Do not ride in someone's blind spot. It's a good way to get yourself hurt. And then when an emergency vehicle approaches with a siren, you should pull over to the right and stop until it passes. All right? This is assuming the road is not wide enough for 2 or more lanes of travel in each direction. If it is, then we pull to the rightmost part of the lane. We slow down by at least 20 miles an hour so that the emergency vehicle can get past us that much faster. All right? And that's, of course, the end for today. So every day make the world a better place. But first, do no harm. Every day make that choice, make that change, make that decision to take one step closer to the person you want to be, the life you want to live, the career you want to have. Folks, I am going to tell you until the very last day that the power to be who you want to be is in your hands. The power to make those choices and changes. Yes, while you live under someone else's roof, you have to follow their rules, but while you are yourself, you get to follow the rules that you set for yourself. And sometimes we need rules. Sometimes we need to change the way we think because we're not doing everything we can. Okay? My little brother got married on Monday. You know, he's currently experiencing the most traumatic situation of you need to make changes because that is when, you know, the big compromise happens, right? All right? We do things in life and the decisions that we make are going to turn us into the people that we're going to be, right? And we need to choose to make the best decisions. We need to make the decisions that are going to make us into good people. All right, folks? So tomorrow we're going to be talking about adverse conditions and handling emergencies, which is kind of cool. You know, another couple videos in there that are going to be helpful, and we're going to be talking about changing a tire and stuff like that. All right, and then on the final day on Friday, we're going to be talking about insurance and buying a car. Now on Friday, I will also be posting the final exam link. Don't worry about the fact that it's called the final exam, folks. Y'all are going to do just dandy because you've listened to me. You've done the homework assignments. You got this. Having said that, if you try to delay it and wait longer to take it because you're scared about it, you will not do as well as if you do it right now. All right? And right now is when we need you to reinforce that in your head, refresh that stuff, because driver's ed, you know, high school chemistry, you may not need to remember any of that for your future. But driver's ed, you got to remember it all because you are expected to follow all the rules and do everything the right way 100% of the time. But y'all got this, folks. All right? Now, does anyone have any questions, issues, or concerns at this time? Does anyone have anything they want to know? Or are we just good? Am I doing a good job and y'all are just like ready to rock and roll? You know what's expected of you. And, you know, there's nothing that you need to ask, nothing that you need to know that you don't already. Right? Anything, anybody? All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us then, because today was day 13 of Teen Driver Education. We'll see y'all tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, for Teen Driver Education Day 14, where we're talking about adverse conditions and handling emergencies. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Get that observation going because it's paramount. It's key to staying safe on the roadway. Bye, everyone. Be blessed, be well, and just continue to be the wonderful people that I know y'all are. Deuces.